Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. I'm Ben Hansen. I'm here. I'm joined by Kelsey Lewin.
I'm so excited to get weird.
This is going to be the weirdest episode of the MinnMax Show of all time. We're joined by Kyle Hilliard.
I don't know. What's weird? I don't know.
That was so weird, Kyle.
It's not a normal thing to do.
See, that's what I was going for.
That's a freak. We're joined also, honored to be joined for the first time ever by Jeremy Parish.
Hello. Apparently, I've been told that when people think weird, I'm one of the first names that comes to mind. So
Well, we're thinking
Here I
weird
am.
Nintendo, and so it's more the latter than the former. You know how
okay.
it goes, man. On this
I see.
episode, I'm excited to unpack some weird Nintendo stuff. We're in an interesting era of Nintendo, you know, where I think the Switch 2 launch, arguably the least weird console launch in Nintendo's history. It's just kind of a right down the middle. It's kind of a better version of what we did last time. And so I heard so many people kind of lamenting the death of Weird Nintendo or Weird Nintendo being dormant. We like those big weird swings. We like it when we see a news story and we say, What are you doing, Nintendo? What is happening here? And I feel like we're in
Which is why I'm 100% on board with the Virtual Boy re-release.
That's
I feel
exactly
I was
Yeah.
going to say, I think you guys are writing Weird Nintendo's obituary a little early because this is the week where a whole bunch of hands-on impressions went out of an emulation system that you can only subscribe to, but in order to subscribe to the download service, you have to own a physical replica of their least successful and popular game system ever. That's pretty weird.
when you
that's
put
what
it that way. No, you're totally right. It is like just a weird gasp of the past here in several different ways. But then also combined with Kelsey and I, last week we watched the Nintendo Direct for Tamagotchi Life, Living the Dream, which is coming out on April 16th. And that's also just like, this is Weird Nintendo's alive, you know, in a time when you would least expect it. You're right. I worry sometimes, you know, as it gets a little stiffer, gets a little bit tighter, gets a little more buttoned down, but there's still these pockets and these flashes. And that's what I want this episode to be about, is about celebrating the history of Nintendo just being completely unpredictable. And we have some suggestions from the community for good stuff to jump into here. And then, of course, back half of the show, we have some great questions submitted over there on Patreon with people wanting to know about things other than Nintendo. So you can skip ahead with the time codes if you absolutely hate Nintendo. But I promise you'll learn something in this discussion. Jeremy Parish, speaking of weird, may I get weird with you, sir?
Yes, as long as it's, HR appropriate.
Okay, great. I promise. Absolutely. I would not be here if not for 1UP. 1UP and the 1UP show, 1UP Yours, all that stuff is unbelievably influential. How often does this come up in your life of people hearkening back to the old days, Retronauts origins, all that fun stuff from your past?
Not too often these days. 1UP has been gone for almost, 13, 14 years now? So... memory kind of collectively fades, but it does still pop up, and people, still mention it from time to time. This is actually 20 years, the anniversary of Retronauts later this year,
wow.
so I'm sure we'll be dwelling on that some more.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how many people do you think who are Retronauts listeners know that it came from 1UP at this point?
I would say at least, on the Discord, the really kind of devoted listeners who subscribe to the Patreon and everything, I would say a pretty good number of them. But there's still an influx of younger listeners who, they have no idea what a 1up.com is.
That's so weird.
I'm in a similar boat to Ben, by the way, where it was like early podcasting for me, right? I was like manually moving episodes of This American Life over to my Zune along with 1UP podcasts. That was like my entryway into this whole magical arena.
Were you the guy who was always emailing us to say, why don't you have Zune support? Was that you?
That's honestly, I'm wondering now, would I have bugged people about that?
Yes,
maybe.
Yes, you would have.
Glad to finally put a face to those emails.
Sometimes I look at Zunes on eBay occasionally, and I'm like, kind of want to get one. I kind of just want to have one,
Yeah. But congratulations, Jeremy. You're staying very busy these days with NES Works, the entire YouTube channel going through so many Nintendo games. These are such beautiful, compact little videos. If I ever just need reliable history about a Nintendo game, it is my number one go-to spot. So congratulations on that series going strong.
Be sure to check the comments as annotations, because sometimes I get details wrong. Like a video went up today where I mentioned an anime called Time Stranger, and I put footage of Time Stranger in, as kind of like underneath what I was speaking about. But it turns out that there were two anime called Time Stranger.
Oh no!
And one of them was the one that I was supposed to be talking about, and I got it wrong. But how could I have known that? That's just, you're just pulling stuff off YouTube or whatever. Like, oh, Time Stranger. Surely there can't be multiple shows from 1986 called Time Stranger, but there are.
It's confusing for everybody. No, but it's so nice just to have like the go-to spot. Like I was playing Balloon Kid now that it's on NSO because I'm a big Balloon Fight fan and whatnot. And I dabbled with Balloon Kid a little bit before, but I was like, I kind of learned the history of this a little bit more. And then jumping into your video, I learned a ton. I learned apparently that you can land and reinflate your balloons, which seems like a crucial part of Balloon Kid. But
yes.
then also the idea that in Europe it was turned into Hello Kitty World and reskinned as an NES game, which I had no idea. But it has the same music and everything.
Yeah, that was actually in Japan, not Europe. But there was some sort of collaboration between Sanrio and Nintendo, and they put out 2 games, and one of them was a reskinned version of the Game Boy port of Balloon Fight that was then taken back to Famicom and turned into Hello Kitty. That's very strange. They did some stuff.
Yeah.
That's I think that's appropriate for this episode.
I think so. Yeah, it's time to get weird. And last weird tidbit, I swear. But Kelsey was bringing it up before the show, and I said, save it, which is a lot of people credit you with the invention of the word Metroidvania. And how often does this
Please
come
check
up?
my bio. My bio says right there, did not invent the word Metroidvania.
But it's debatable for a lot of internet sleuths, right?
No, it's not debatable. You should. There's an amazing video by Kate Willert that is like a 1-hour deep dive on exactly how the term came to be, and it's pretty definitive that Jeremy did not.
There is a
invent
lot of there is a lot of me in that video, but I am not the origin point, nor have I ever claimed to.
But
be.
you did popularize it, which I think is.
According to Reddit, yes.
Yeah, popularizing it is an important
The
part.
Reddit Metroidvania, the Metroidvania Reddit subreddit mentions me right there in the header. So that's a delight.
So it's just the idea of back in 2003, you just used it in an article in 1UP, and now everyone can just see that, and they're like, well, this must have been the origin point.
It was 2006, and basically I was like, this is a tiny little dying corner of video games, and I love it so much, and I'm sad that no one's going to be making these anymore. So I started just writing about Metroidvania type games, not knowing that 3 or 4 years later that would become the thing for indie gamers to make, thanks to Shadow Complex. I think that was kind of the one that tipped it over the cliff, and everyone said, oh, this is so good. And it's funny because I went, when I reviewed Shadow Complex at the time, I was like, this is just Super Metroid as a cover shooter. Do something, a little more creative here. And then it turns out that is actually just a genre unto itself. So I've softened on my opinions of Shadow Complex. You guys proved that Metroid is just a style of game. It is not a series. It is a way of life.
It's so funny that you bring up Shadow Complex because I was thinking about that a few days ago, and I was like, is there a way to an easy way to replay it? And is there anyone who cares about that game in the sense of could it ever get remastered or brought anywhere? Because all that team is working on Fortnite now, right? So they're never gonna go back and think about Shadow Complex, right? Is that correct, or am I making things up?
Probably. It was remastered for PlayStation 4, so
yeah.
I don't know if that's still on the PlayStation Network store, but it is out there, and
I love Shadow Complex.
Limited Run Games published it on a disc, so I don't know if that's one of the ones that have shot way up in price, but it's out there physically, and it should be compatible on PS5 is my understanding, so don't quote me on that. I can't promise anything. I do not speak for Limited Run Games. I just take health insurance.
So let me write this down. The creator of the term Metroidvania says Shadow Complex is definitely playable on PlayStation 5. Okay, got it.
Kelsey,
yes, 100%,
you're cool as hell. Having the physical version, she will not be silent.
You can send that to me, Kelsey. I'll take
yeah,
that.
that'd be nice.
Okay, you can borrow. I don't think this is. I mean, I haven't checked in a little while, but I think it's $30.
That's all right. Hey, speaking of good games, everybody, if you've enjoyed MinnMax's content lately, boy, do I have something for you. If you choose to support us on Patreon at even the $2 tier, we'd appreciate a $5, but even at that $2 tier, we will DM you on Patreon with the Steam code for Sektori, which is from a developer formerly at Housemarque, but it is an awesome twin stick arcade experience, roguelite elements in there as well. But, Jacob Geller and the Giant Bomb Boys have been high score chasing this thing for so long. It's got overwhelmingly positive reviews. Could use some more love. Those guys have been playing it for like 50, 80 hours and are still finding new layers of complexity and brilliance to Sektori. And so you can get it for $2 if you jump in at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's before this coming Monday, February 9th. And this is for new supporters only, brand new supporters only, not including returning or upgrading supporters. But if you're new, you want to jump in, support MinnMax on Patreon at the $2 tier, $5 tier, whatever you like there, we'll DM you on Patreon with that Steam code for Sektori, and we'll post on Blue Sky, Instagram, update this YouTube description if we run out of Steam codes for Sektori. But thanks everybody for making this possible and supporting independent games media and getting a great game at the same time. Last bit of plugging, I swear. If you came here and you're saying, why aren't these people talking about the exciting announcements from the Nintendo Partner Direct, the third-party announcements, all that stuff, we're recording this before that airs. And so you can check our YouTube channel if you want to see a live reaction with us, with our jaws hitting the floor and all that fun stuff there for everything announced during that. This is unofficial, but I was looking at like the big list of Nintendo published games to try and go through my own combing of like, what is weird? According to a rough estimate, Nintendo has published about 1,800 games throughout their history of like video games, right? And I'd argue some of those a little bit odd. It's beyond just the Marios and Zeldas. And I feel like walking into this discussion with like a couple of historians, I feel like I gotta like focus on their most recent weird stuff. Because not that we're, putting the spotlight on you too much, but it's like I expect you guys to come up with some deep cut weird thing that released in 1983 if you weren't paying attention. Jeremy, that's where your mind went immediately, was like, I gotta go deep into the past here.
I start from the beginning and work my way forward. Around like 1998, I started just kind of tap out.
Yeah, we're gonna go back and we're gonna show off like the Lefty RX and go back to toys, and
it's not a video game, but yes, I love the Lefty RX. It is so quintessentially Nintendo. It is like the definition of everything.
Yeah, I was thinking about it recently. Actually, this is the old RC race car. That Gunpei Yokoi design.
I can for video watchers. I got one right
Kelsey
next to me.
Is not messing around.
Kelsey, you're a hero.
But they saved money by having it only be able to turn to the left. And I was thinking about it because we're talking about that Astro Duel 2 Astro Party. Oh my gosh, Kelsey has it. It's so good.
It's pristine too. Wow.
It's in all right shape. You used to be able to just kind of buy these on the Japanese auction sites, and then people realized that Nintendo used to be a toy company, and that's cool. And now it's all expensive.
Come on, people, stop doing your history, please. Kelsey, where did your mind go to when you're thinking of the weirdest games throughout the history?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, it's tough because I wound up just brain dumping a bunch of notes. And so what I have written down is probably like 30 different things.
Love it.
And so I don't really know where to start. But I think maybe a fun one would just be the Mario Talent Studio, or just the Mario Artist Suite of games for the Nintendo 64 disk drive, which was a really unpopular and quickly kind of scrapped peripheral for the Nintendo 64. Only came out in Japan, had a lot of cool features, at least in theory, could go on the internet, you could theoretically share things with other people. It had readable and writable discs with a K. Nintendo was not hip to using CDs at this point in their history, even though everyone else was. But they did want to have some way of expanding their storage and their capabilities and everything. So they had these sort of like floppy disk things. And so the Mario Artist Suite was like, it's essentially an expansion or a sequel, I guess, to like a Mario Paint kind of thing. It's another creativity software suite. And there were supposed to be like 8 of them that all did slightly different things. Only 4 came out. But the one that I think is kind of the most fun, and that they would even continue to try to, like, to me, there's almost like a direct through line to Tomodachi Life. It's not exactly, but like you can just kind of see this kernel continue to show up, is the Mario Talent Studio. And when they say talent, what they mean is like talent is sort of like the little wacky game shows and scenarios and stuff like that you might see on a Japanese TV program. So it's not like, oh, my little character can juggle or whatever. It's just like it's a program for creating little scenes. You can like, superimpose faces on top of people, and you can create little scenes and little movies and stuff. And it's just a really neat creativity studio that you can use. There's like a mouse and everything to.
I was just about to ask, does it use a mouse, or was the expectation that you would use the N64 controller and stuff?
No, there was a mouse, thankfully.
Okay.
So, but yeah, they kind of brought this back when they were debuting the GameCube. They had a program that never released, but that was called Stage Debut, which was just kind of like a continuation of this concept. Huh. They even like, I think it was playable even at one of the trade shows that was canceled. And then from there you get like Mii's, and from the Mii's you get Tomodachi Life, where they get put in these weird scenarios. And it's just kind of like this, like all the way back then you have this through line of like, what if we could make little guys and put them in wacky scenarios? And like, wouldn't that be fun? Isn't that a whole game in and of itself?
Yeah. And isn't Mario Artist also like the genesis of WarioWare? There's kind of like the earliest ideas of kind of like rapid firing through games. Isn't that in that collection as well?
It is. I mean, you could also say that's in Mario Paint. Like there's some little mini games in Mario Paint too that you could say are WarioWare-ish. But yeah, there's I want to say it's called something Smart Bomb or something like that. Is like it's the first level of WarioWare, and it's also in the Mario Artist series. So it's like it is a 1-to-1, like we took this little mini game that we had in the Mario Artist series and we put it directly in WarioWare.
Yeah.
So you're saying it is a micro game in WarioWare.
Yes.
That is okay.
Correct.
Look at that one.
The weird history.
I have never actually put hands on a 64 DD because it's crazy rare and expensive. But I am familiar with this. Like they hyped the 64 DD so hard and pushed how it was going to come to the US and how there were going to be all these cool expansions for F-Zero, which did come out in Japan, how that was going to be the sequel to Earthbound. Mother 3 was coming to 64 DD. That game did come out in Japan, but for Game Boy Advance. So, it was like just all these hollow promises that never came to be. But the Mario, talent studio does seem pretty interesting. And I kind of feel like Will Wright just sort of said, oh, I like that, yoink, and then made the movies or whatever that was called that Max has created. Am I getting that right?
No, that was a Will Wright game. That was a Molyneux game for the movies.
Oh, yeah. Molyneux. Okay.
Yeah.
That yoink seems more in keeping with that. Okay, that explains it.
But you could import things that you made in Mario Paint Studio into SimCity 64 on the disk drive, and
Really?
you could have those little guys be like characters in your, little guys in your SimCity city.
God, I love
How many
that
people
stuff.
took advantage of that, you think?
Oh, I mean, Kyle, like 15,000 of these units sold total. How many people
There are
from
dozens of
there
us,
bought
Michael,
both
dozens.
of those games? Like, I mean,
I think dozens is generous.
I mean, I love that weird interaction stuff. Like, I remember my mind being blown as a kid when it was like, wait, I can build a city in SimCity 2000 and then bring it into Streets of SimCity, which was kind of a car combat game, and you can actually drive around your city from SimCity 2000. It's like, once we found that out, my friends and I were like, there's no way that's actually possible. Streets of SimCity somehow got even better, the game that no one's ever talked about. Thinking about the history of kind of the weird Nintendo games, my mind always goes to like Smash Melee in particular. Just thinking about like the trophies. Like when you see trophies for stuff and it's like, what is this? And I think the first one was like Doshin the Giant. Was the first like, what do you mean there's some big Nintendo game that I've never heard of? And that's a 64 DD thing, right?
it is. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Is it good? Should we try and find it and play it somehow?
I would love to play Doshin the Giant. I've never like properly put time into it. It's a very up my alley kind of game. But I've never like
I've seen images
done more than
of it.
mess around with it.
Yeah.
What is the genre? Like I know that like, are you taking care of a giant or something?
No, I think you're kind of like the god of a little town.
Yeah, it's kind of got a populist thing going on, but instead of just being an avatar, as a cursor, you're this like big yellow giant, like huge, gigantic, kaiju sized.
Yeah.
And they did put that. There was like sequel, I think, on GameCube.
Yeah,
but of course
it came
only
out in
Japan.
Europe.
So Oh, well.
Yeah.
So there's an English language version out there.
There is an English language one. Yeah, it's the sequel, but it is yeah.
I love it. That's
Just
tempting.
straight up.
I had no idea. I feel like my picks are going to be like way less cool than Jeremy and Kelsey.
No,
but like
I think we can do deep cuts, but that doesn't make them weirder. That just makes
right, like because that's the thing. I was thinking of like obscure, like weird things, and one that's always sticks out to me that I think of like games, Nintendo games that people aren't aware of, and I kind of understand why. There's this game called Looksley's Lineup. Have you guys, this one? It was only for DSi, like specifically DSi, which was like in between DS and 3DS, and it had cameras on it. And they released like a WarioWare game that used the camera, and Looksy's Lineup was another game that used it from the WarioWare folks. And it was what it was it was like a hidden object game, and the way it would work is you would tilt the system to like look around. And what was cool about it is if you were sitting well and it was working well, it really did look like stereoscopic 3D on the DSi, because it would kind of like look at your, I don't know, I don't think it tracked your eyes or your face or anything. I know like new 3DS eventually started implementing that to make the 3D better, but I think it was just the motion. But it was a game where you could like hold your DS and you would tilt to kind of look for things and find things, and it really did kind of fool you into thinking you were getting like a stereoscopic 3D sort of visual on your DSi. But it's like the only way to get it was on DSi. You had to use, I'm looking up all my 500 Nintendo points, and it was just like that store only existed on that one platform and just evaporated the second like the 3DS came out, because Nintendo was still trying to figure out exactly what selling games online was. And that I just was always very charmed by that from a bizarre technological perspective. They were trying something really, really specific with this game, which is like what I was always hoping that like the eShop kind of world would be. It's like, this is where we release smaller experimental stuff, which, I don't know if it really ever became that, but this is one of the few examples, I feel like. Looksley's Lineup.
I love that. I do think when you look at like the pockets of like where's the most fruitful era of weird under the radar Nintendo, it's like early weird stuff, and then DSi WiiWare, to be like, wait, what is going on here? Like the one that I found that I didn't know about was, first of all, the idea that like Q Games made a sequel to X, that Game Boy game that was called X-Scape. That was exclusive to DSiWare. Like, oh man, I forgot completely about that. And then Intelligent Systems made a game that's called Link and Launch. And I saw that and I was like, wait, is it like some sort of Zelda crossover? It's like, no, they're just using the word Link. It's just a little puzzle game with a rocket ship, and it's just called Link and Launch. But like Intelligent Systems, like one of the best studios of all time is releasing this game that's just, because it's on DSiWare, just kind of gets forgotten to history,
Yeah, anything DSi, and even the 3DS era had a lot of stuff. I think we're going to look back at some of the weird stuff of the 3DS eShop era that Nintendo did and be like, that was, what?
Yeah.
Like Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is one that strikes me as just like a...
Yep.
If you tell someone in 15 years about that there was this game where you would haggle for like real actual money microtransactions, and it was on the eShop and it's gone now and everything, like this sounds impossible.
It does. Somehow that game feels illegal. Like, what do you mean you can like have dialogue to impact real world money? It doesn't make sense.
Like that was my exact reaction when I learned about it. I was like, you can do that? Like, you're allowed? And it's like, on a basic level, it's like, yeah, I mean, right? Like it's like you're not gambling or anything. You're just trying to talk down how much you're going to pay for something in game. And I love that idea. It's such a strange idea.
Why is it just greed? Why don't more people try this? People would talk about it if like, hey, you nail this tough timing sequence in a game, or you beat this RPG battle, then suddenly the DLC costs half as much. Like, it's just a fun idea.
I don't know. Does it punish people in a way who aren't like willing to engage with it or something? Is it what's the word I'm looking for? Is it like pay to win? If you're really good at a mini game, you get a discount. I don't know. I mean, it's like
pay to win. It's do well to pay less. It's the opposite of pay to win.
Yeah, it's win to not pay.
There we go.
And everybody loves it.
The thing that really makes Rusty's Real Deal Baseball so strange is not just the microtransaction part of it and the haggling, but the fact that you're engaging with a dog and he's depressed and he's a divorcee.
Right.
And he's like just this miserable, like literally hangdog guy. and you're basically taking advantage of him and like needling him for discounts.
And his kids will like help you take
kind of feel bad about
too.
it. I know,
It's weird.
there's a lot of subtext to that game that yeah, it's genuinely one of the strange ones. It's on my list for sure.
Yeah.
You know, Kelsey mentioned Nintendo's history as a toy maker as sort of integral to their corporate identity and just how they think about games. And so a lot of the things that kind of jump out to me are not just games in the pure sense, but they're peripherals or sort of game experiences that you have outside of the bounds of the software. So really, like, the first time I really stopped and said, what are they doing? Was the e-reader for Game Boy Advance, which was a cartridge that you could plug in, and it's got, you know, it was kind of building on the idea of Barcode Battler and some of those like visual like scanning technologies from the 90s, but this was different because you could buy cards, and then you could use the cards, like swipe them and read, you know, barcodes basically on the trading cards, and it would do different things. So you could plug in your Game Boy Advance to Animal Crossing, and you could scan Animal Crossing cards and get extra stuff in there. And so it was kind of like, you know, DLC almost before such a thing existed, or an expansion. But instead of doing like, here's a software expansion, it was, here's some cards that you can swipe on your Game Boy Advance and plug that and make use of that connectivity. But also, this was the first time Nintendo really experimented with releasing old games, because they knew, like, we have this back catalog of games that people love, and there's a way to monetize this, and we don't know what that is. Like 5 years later, they would give us Virtual Console, and that was very successful for a while. A couple of years before that, they gave us the Famicom Mini, the NES Classics for Game Boy. But before they did that, they said, what if we put some of those early NES games on like trading cards, and you could swipe those into the e-reader on your Game Boy Advance, so you could play a really old NES game like Donkey Kong or Baseball or something. But to do that, you have to swipe like 5 cards perfectly, and then it will save that in the e-reader's memory until you swipe another thing. So they sold video games on paper cards for a while. And, you know, that does get to Nintendo's roots. They were a trading card or a playing card company first and foremost. Like, they were a Hanafuda card, and they released, you know, poker cards and trumps cards and things like that. But this was just a really bizarre collision of a lot of Nintendo history and also their Game Boy Advance connectivity and peripheral obsession. So it's just like, I still own some of those cards, and I can't believe that I ever actually went to the trouble to swipe 5 or 10 cards or whatever it was to play Donkey Kong Jr., but it was novel. So, you know, I did get to play Donkey Kong Jr. on my Game Boy Advance, but then I was like, well, I don't really want to play Donkey Kong Jr. on my Game Boy Advance. I'd rather play Metroid Fusion. So it was pretty short-lived, but those lasted for quite a while. And there's a bunch of exclusive levels that exist in Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario Advance 4, that you can only access. I think they're available they were available on the Wii U eShop version of Super Mario
I think that's
Advance. Right. But for a long time, the only way you could play those levels was to hook 2 Game Boy Advances together, put Super Mario 3 in one system, put an e-reader in the other, track down those expansion cards, swipe them, and then it would save those alternate levels, which were really weird. They like brought in Super Mario Brothers 2 elements and all kinds of other things into the Super Mario 3 physics and sandbox. So, you know, they really went for it and did some really strange, interesting things. And some of those cards are very, very valuable now because they only release them in certain limited places. I think there's a Kirby card that sells for hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I was working at a GameStop when those things like started, like during its whole tenure, basically. And I remember there was like a run on those Animal Crossing cards. Like, people would come in and just like buy out the whole stock because it was like the only way to get certain items and stuff. Yeah.
It's also just like a good collectible trading card for people who liked Animal Crossing. I liked that the like manual included in the e-reader packs. I put this in my book, but the Animal Crossing ones, they had like little passwords that you could that were printed on the cards, and you would like type them into Tom Nook, and he'd give you a gift. And it's like, make sure you keep these private. Like you can't share the little passwords that you need to purchase more cards. You cannot share this with anyone. You obviously could, but
You got it. Whatever you say, Tom.
Or was like, oh no, I can't. He said I can't. I'm sorry, buddy.
What are you gonna do?
Rossetti's gonna get you.
That's how it works, man. Yeah, let's see. I mean, on that note of just kind of their history and the physical angle, it goes back as well to the WiiWare stuff, but I had no idea this existed. But there's a Club Nintendo exclusive that Nintendo produced, going back to Yokoi, of course. Kelsey, get ready with your prop. But the game was called Grill Off with Ultra Hand, where it was a WiiWare game where you just have the old Ultra Hand and it's like a weird game where you're trying to manage what's cooking on the grill in what order. But the idea of them like harkening back to their history for this WiiWare exclusive is the type of good Nintendo weird. And of course, Kelsey, please wow us.
which Ultra Hand do you want?
Oh, okay. All right, hotshot. Jeez, oh, Pete, gotta quit setting her up for this stuff.
And you'd use like the Ultra Hand in game to like flip birds.
That's the whole idea.
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
But then also like the Club Nintendo stuff, it's like there's weird stuff like, oh yeah, there's a game, like a puzzle game that was called You, Me, and the Cubes. And it kind of looks like the GameCube startup thing, but it's like a puzzle experience. And there's another one that I forgot, which was, remember Doc Lewis's Punch-Out? Where it's like, hey, it's Punch-Out, but you're just fighting your coach. And that's all you're doing over and over again. It's just like, oh, I completely forgot about that pocket. Let's see, other stuff. When you think weird Nintendo, is it too cliche now to be like, Captain Rainbow on the Wii is a weird game? Is that the obvious weird choice?
That was like a multiplayer platformer? Am I misremembering?
No, it was more of an adventure game, and you were like playing as a rainbow-themed superhero and running around like different kind of Nintendo worlds, talking to their forgotten characters. They were all just kind of like the rejects. So it was kind of like Sega Gaga, but more depressing.
Right. Right. Did you play it? Is it fun? Is it worth playing?
I never played it. No, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I've always just been curious about it. Like the box art is so iconic and filled with the rainbows. Kelsey, what else jumps out for you?
I don't know. Should we talk about some more hardware stuff?
Yeah, sure, of course.
I think one of the neat, I'm going to go old again with this, but Nintendo's kind of always been trying to do more and to do weird things. And I think particularly in the 80s, we weren't that far removed from like, Nintendo hadn't been a video game company for very long. At that point, they had been in all kinds of other types of things. And they were most successful, of course, in toys and electronics and playing cards. But Hiroshi Yamauchi, was the president at the time, had seen the company through all kinds of different expansions into different markets, most of which did not work out. But I think, he saw companies like Sharp or like Sony who had kind of branched out into all kinds of different, they make video games, but, Sharp also makes like microwaves and all kinds of just like random stuff like this. So they made a modem. They partnered with Nomura Securities, which is a really old brokerage in Japan. And this was meant to basically turn your Famicom into basically a computer. So you could do some stock market trading. Eventually you'd be able to do things like bet on horse races and that sort of thing. But it was banking at home in the 80s, which was kind of a novel concept at the time because a computer might have been $1,000 and a Famicom was like $150. So it didn't work out super well because I think understandably, a lot of people were like, this is a toy. I don't know that I want to trust all of my stock market stuff to a toy that's in my house. But, they had real designs on like maybe we could be a financial institution. Maybe we could be a telecommunications company in some ways. And so you did get sort of this like really early internet connectivity all the way back with the Famicom, and the horse race betting stuff. This is my favorite fact. They kept that service up until the mid 2010s.
What?
Yeah. I don't know how many people are still
the
using
same
it.
people who were
discontinue it.
importing, their 64DD like Sims stuff, or the same ones that doing stock trading or horse betting on their NES or whatever.
Meanwhile, they shut down the Wii U eShop just a couple of years ago. Like, why did you let that one go on forever? I guess it's probably different amount
it's crazy. There was, and I don't know how accurate this stat is because it's tough to find, Japanese primary sources and stuff. But something. They said that something like 30% of people who were doing horse race betting were doing it through one of these modems, which is just wild. And I do have.
Was that
the
only way to do it without leaving your house?
I mean, surely not in 2012, but
right. Yeah.
but probably back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah.
There's probably some people who just thought they were like, this is my good luck charm or something, right? They're just probably insistent, like, I can't do it anywhere else but my Famicom,
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, if you've ever tried to deal with banks or ATMs in Japan, it's crazy that Nintendo was trying to push it into the electronic, remote space, just back in the 80s, because even 5 or 6 years ago, the actual act of trying to do transactions with banks in Japan is very, very old school. Like, for a long time, ATMs would shut down during bank holidays because the bank wasn't open, and therefore, why would you be able to withdraw money from an automated teller machine? That doesn't make any sense. No, you should wait and come back during the bank's open hours to get your remote transaction. So it's amazing to think that Nintendo is out there trying to push, and that just culturally that was not accepted for another 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 40 years, really.
I mean, their entire online world early on is still fashion. Like, I remember, I don't know, it was mid 2010s before I learned that, wait, what do you mean they made a sequel to Link to the Past that was exclusive to the Satellaview? Like, that still is just strange to me. It was a BS, The Legend of Zelda, Ancient Stone Tablets. And is that playable anywhere? Is that good?
Yeah, you can play it. It won't have so the weird thing about the Satellaview, because it was a satellite service, right, was they would also beam down live commentary. And so that stuff is lost, but people have you can otherwise play a version of it, but the live commentary for it is, I believe, mostly lost. I've seen recordings, so I don't know if those are recreations or there's just parts of it were recorded by some guy, but yeah, there's a lot of weird Satellaview stuff. That is a neat system. And no, I don't have one of those next to me, so I can't do that one.
I'll break the streak.
Zelda has a 40th anniversary really soon, so fingers crossed that they're going to announce a remake of the BS Satellaview version of Zelda.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That's going to be the anniversary celebration.
I mean,
they're going to tease everyone.
It's something much weirder.
Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD, and then they're just gonna be like, nope, this is what you wanted, right?
I mean, yeah.
A lady is going to tell you how to play Zelda on Super NES.
But the idea of them bringing back, the previously unreleased Virtual Boy games, it's that's so exciting to see the Star Fox 2 situation again. Like, Kelsey, I feel like when we were talking about it last time on the podcast, maybe they're going to do this, and then it's awesome to see again Nintendo get a little bit weird and be like, yeah, you know what? This weird F-Zero spin-off thing on Virtual Boy, you're going to be able to play that on your Switch. It's cool to see them embracing the weird parts of their past again and again.
I mean, some of the stuff was just straight up done, so it makes it just like Star Fox 2. It's just because it makes sense doesn't mean Nintendo's going to do it. In fact, oftentimes it is the exact opposite. But yeah, when they were talking about the Virtual Boy, I was like, it would just make sense. They're done.
Yeah,
they could just put these out there.
It's right there. Should we jump to the future, everybody? I have one that's more recent, but really when thinking about what is just weird stuff that Nintendo has made recently that it's completely unpredictable. I still think about Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the NecroDancer featuring The Legend of Zelda a lot. I can't think of many situations where one of gaming's biggest IPs, especially from Nintendo, a pretty tight company, there's yeah, go ahead, indie team up in Canada. Go ahead and make a new Zelda game. Here you go. But for what originally started and was pitched apparently from the studio that made Crypt of the NecroDancer as just DLC for their game that was Zelda inspired. And then Nintendo just said, go ahead, how about you just blow this out and make it into a whole Zelda game that's musically based, and the soundtrack is unbelievably good. I was just listening to it earlier today. It holds up so well. It's ridiculous.
Better than the actual game, I would argue.
I think that might be true.
Soundtrack.
I feel like this game is due for a reckoning, though. Like maybe people just weren't ready for like the roguelike elements back in 2019 or something. Just to have like a randomized Link to the Past looking worlds. Like maybe they're like, okay, there's something here that we didn't appreciate enough at the time, other than even just the absurdity of letting an indie game make Zelda. Like, imagine if there was this like bidding from every other publisher of who gets to make a Zelda game and what that number would get up to. And the idea that they just gave it to this small team is still so weird.
It's cool. I mean, it was really a product of Miyamoto just really enjoying the sort of mechanics of the Crypt of the NecroDancer, right?
Or was it
sort of the rumor?
Or was it Enuma?
Or new? I thought I mean, you know, who knows what's true, but I thought I'd heard that either Miyamoto or Enuma had played Crypt of the NecroDancer and were like, this, I just love this idea. And then it kind of went from there. But I don't know how true that is.
Yeah. It's weird to think about kind of this, you know, era as well, where maybe they were getting a little bit looser. The fact that, like, you know, they let Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle exist from Ubisoft, give Mario some guns. That's pretty damn weird. Or even like putting Star Fox and Starlink, kind of that Ubisoft connection again. Like they were kind of letting other people play with their big boys, which seems very anti-Nintendo for how tight it can be, you know?
Although actually I have a couple of games on my list that sort of do that same thing, but back in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
You know, they had a really close relationship with Hudson back in the early days of the Famicom. Hudson did a lot of their programming work. They were the ones who kind of designed Family Basic and the keyboard that you could buy to turn Family Computer Famicom into an actual something kind of like a computer. So that collaboration kind of went both ways, and they let Hudson make some Mario games and some Donkey Kong games for personal computers.
Yes.
So there's like 3 Hudson developed personal computer games built around Nintendo IPs that are just really bizarre. Like one of them is Super Mario Brothers Special, which is Super Mario Brothers, but it's on a machine that didn't have the ability to do smooth scrolling. So it's flip screen. Like you get to the edge of the screen and it switches to a new screen. There's like no smooth transition. So it's kind of like The Legend of Zelda, but it's Super Mario Brothers. It's fast and it's challenging, and it's a terrible way to play. And it also has like random Mario Brothers enemies in there. There's Punchball Mario Brothers, which is Mario Brothers, but also there's like a ball that bounces around and you have to like hit it while you're also fighting the monsters, you know, the creatures under the sewer. And then the weirdest one is a Donkey Kong 3 sequel, where they turned Donkey Kong 3 into just like a straight up Galaga Galaxian style shooter. But there's kind of a narrative behind it. And as you play through the levels, there's a background image for each level that changes as you advance. And it starts out pretty normal, pretty mundane. And you're like on a highway, and you know it's in the background. And then you kind of go out into the countryside and there's cornfields. And then there's a UFO. And then you're inside the UFO and you're fighting Donkey Kong while like aliens are examining you as the wallpaper in the background. And it's just really, really strange. And thankfully, like this was very, very poorly documented until a few years ago. And someone finally dumped it and released it. I can't remember what it's called, like Donkey Kong 3 Gyakushū or something like that.
Yep, exactly
but
right.
It's out there, and you can play it if you get the emulator for the PC 8801, I think was the system that it was on, or maybe FM7. But yeah, like check these out because they're really unusual takes on, you know, kind of Mario's biggest or Nintendo's biggest games right at the time that Nintendo was really kind of in a position of power and was kind of knuckling down and saying, we're going to, you know, control our own destiny, but also we're going to let Hudson do just some weird ass stuff.
Yeah, I love that. Just kind of that when they have those pockets of being really loose with really big IP. And like, you know, I was even thinking about like, you know, I mean, really, it's iconic, but Super Mario RPG is a pretty weird idea of like, we're just going to combine, you know, Dragon Quest with Mario, have at it, Square. But on top of that, then thinking about like Super Mario Land, also just weird, you know, and it's like a different team than normal. You know, you don't have the classic, designers of Super Mario 1 through 3 making that thing. But at the same time, it's like, it's people who like worked with Mario before Mario Brothers, right? And so it's still like people who have a lot of ownership over it, and they just took Mario in a super weird direction.
Yeah, it's basically the Mario Brothers team making Super Mario Brothers as opposed to some, like the people who actually made Super Mario Brothers making Super Mario Brothers. So it feels much more like that in terms of some of the physics and the enemies that you fight. And also they, had to kind of squeeze it into this tiny little screen. And no one had ever made a Mario style platformer for a portable system before. So they were kind of, just putting it all out there and saying, how do we do this? And they came up with something that's Mario, but also like really off brand.
Yeah.
But in a good way.
I think so. I think so for sure.
I had some, just two quick ones. Well, one quick one and one maybe a longer one, but just the ones that I'm like, why did Nintendo publish this? Yeah. Like there's a recent one that we really don't have to dive into, but DC Superhero Girls Teen Power is like, why did Nintendo publish that? I have no idea. It didn't seem like a particularly amazing game. It's not like it came out, everyone was like, oh, this is actually really good. You'd be surprised. But it just struck me as so strange that it was like a licensed DC game that Nintendo published.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I always loved, it's like an ongoing joke with a shout out to my friend Aaron Blevins, who I worked with at GameStop for many years. We would always talk about Odama. And what will the legacy of Odama be? Which was, if you're unfamiliar, it's a GameCube game that combines, like, I've actually never played it, but it's like you are controlling armies with with pinball paddles and like knocking over armies and stuff like that on a battlefield. It almost looks like Dynasty Warriors zoomed out, and you're like knocking people over with this giant ball, the Odama. And which
Kelsey.
is like weird enough on its own, but right, if you hold that box sideways, it's really big, right, Kelsey? Because it comes with the mic, and then you can also make commands to like tell troops what to do and stuff like that. And it's published by Nintendo. It's like, this is like, it's not, it's not developed internally, but there was something that I guess they liked about that, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna get that out there, and it's only gonna be on GameCube. We want people to play pinball and shout at their troops,
I know.
And it's Yu Saito, the Seaman creator.
Oh,
right,
really?
yeah.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
No wonder it has a mic. He was probably insistent on that.
Yeah. Yeah, thinking about GameCube stuff, Oliver Smith wrote in just like, hey, again, just because it's a big game doesn't mean we should overlook it, of just like Pikmin. Just think about how freaking weird Pikmin is, and the fact that Miyamoto's trying to run up that hill and make it the biggest video game IP in the world, and he has been for 25 years now.
He's right to do so. They've created such wonderful little guys, and they should be doing more with Pikmin because they are wonderful little guys. And I wish Pikmin Bloom wasn't the only like casual Pikmin property where you can just dress them up, because that in and of itself would sell. Just
That's
dress up your
interesting.
Pikmin. They're cute.
Yeah.
Kelsey, you're acting like they didn't produce a weird short film that we were all very confused by.
Yeah.
Which I loved, by the way. I loved that 48 hours of like, what is this?
I mean, speaking...
and then it was like, Pikmin is what it is. We're like, oh, thanks.
What else is going on? This Pikmin can't catch a break. But speaking of 48 hours of not knowing what the hell it is, another weird game I was thinking about recently is from 2024, which is Emio the Smiling Man. Like the surprising sequel in the Famicom Detective Club series that just felt like, because they put up that mysterious, scary image, and everyone's trying to figure out, okay, is this Eternal Darkness coming back? What could this possibly be? And very few people expected, the return of Famicom Detective Club. And I don't know if that's just like a big thank you to Sakamoto, who directed it, the creator of Metroid back in the day and stuff. And he just wanted to make a new one in that series. And so it is just somebody with that much sway, like no one can say no to him. But it's awesome that Nintendo had to get behind promoting this visual novel game about murder in the year 2024. Like, just completely unexpected.
I have a bone to pick with their marketing for that, though.
Yeah, what do you got?
To go back to the Satellaview. There was a Satellaview Famicom Detective Club game, and they just pretended like that didn't happen in the marketing. They were like, yeah, there hasn't been one since the Famicom. It's been like 30 years. What are you talking about?
Kelsey's in the comments. Liar! Liar! Respect the Satellaview. Speaking of Sakamoto, I did not know about the game Kiki Trick. Do you guys know Kiki Trick? So this is
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Yes. So
no.
2012, this is a Wii video game that's like a party game based on audio cues and audio prompts. And Sakamoto is the lead designer of this thing as well. And like the host is named Noise, and apparently they appear as a spirit in Smash, just to tie into more of that stuff. But the description here on Wikipedia, at least, it says, the gameplay of Kiki Trick involves listening to a sentence with garbled speech. The player must then choose a word out of a list that completes the sentence. Players can have the sentence repeated. And so no wonder it was a tough game to localize if it's all about speech and audio and stuff like that. So it's just a Japanese exclusive game designed by Sakamoto that's just out there floating around. I kind of want to check it out at some point, though.
The art on this is fantastic.
Isn't it cool?
I adore this.
Yeah, it's a cute look.
You know, I want to go back to Virtual Boy since that's kind of how we started this conversation.
Yeah.
You know, Nintendo was kind of the primary mover and shaker on that system. And most of the games that they published, you're like, oh, I see how that came to be. But there were two, if you look at all regions, Japan and the US, 2 bowling games released for Virtual Boy, which in a library of 22 games, that's a significant percentage of the library.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense, like 3D, you know, the ball rolling. I don't know. But in Japan, they got Virtual Bowling, which is one of the most expensive video games on the collector's market. It's thousands of dollars now, and it's
very impressive.
The Virtual Bowling is really good. But in America, we did not get that. Instead, we got a game called Nestor's Funky Bowling, which was developed by Sapphire, an American studio called Sapphire, and published by Nintendo. And for some reason, they decided that when we make this bowling game, we should base it around a cartoon character who had only appeared in Nintendo Power. He was an unlikable little twerp. No one liked Nestor at all. His comic had actually been discontinued about a year before this.
Oh no!
But they were like, we're bringing him back, and we're giving him a sister.
Before, well, wasn't it like he hadn't even? No, it was. Oh, maybe just Howard.
It was, Howard left in like 1991. So it just became Nestor. But then I think after a few years of that, they were like, yeah, this kid cannot carry a comic on his own. So they just kind of fizzled out. But for whatever reason, they were like, this is going to be our swan song for the Virtual Boy, our final American release. It's going to be Nestor and his sister Hester bowling. Hell yeah. And it's not as good a bowling game as Virtual Bowling, but there are like really horribly rendered versions of Nestor and Hester who react to how they perform. So they like celebrate when they get a strike. But if they don't, then they like lose their hair, which is like sudden alopecia. It's kind of unpleasant and disturbing. I was going to say, I don't know how this made it out the door, but at this point, the Virtual Boy was, on its deathbed. So I think they just didn't care. They were just like, sure, give the people who own Virtual Boy one more thing to buy. Yeah. Why not? Let's get a little more money and just call it a night. Then, they turned off the lights and put the chairs on the tables.
This is not substantiated by anything, but I have a headcanon that they like wanted to put Mario or someone more exciting in it. And they were like, no, this game kind of sucks. You can have Nestor.
We're talking Nestor levels. Yeah. Yeah. On the whole VR front, it ties into like Labo in and of itself, one of the most absurd, strange things out of the blue. But then the fact that they had that Labo VR, I still feel like most people, even hardcore gaming fans, forget that, oh no, there was a VR version of Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey that you could play through the cardboard in Labo VR. And Kyle, I know as VR fan number one and Zelda fan number one, I remember you lying on the Game Informer floor with that Labo VR on your face so that you could play Breath of the Wild in VR, which is so weird.
Nothing like a lower resolution, lower frame rate, if I remember correctly, version of Breath of the Wild. I think the Mario one was a little different. I think that was just like a singular experience. You couldn't play the whole game.
It was okay. Just
Breath of the Wild, you could totally just boot up your save and play it in VR. If you were just I'm way too comfortable to play this game. I'm too relaxed playing this game, and like my head doesn't hurt enough like that was a great option for playing Breath of the Wild.
So weird.
Well, the joke's on you because Labo VR is compatible with Nintendo Switch Online Virtual Boy.
Isn't that exciting? I genuinely think that's cool.
Wait, is it really?
Yep. They confirmed
Yes,
it.
they just announced that like yesterday, I think.
That's
Unpacking my Labo.
So if you bought that and assembled it and did not take it out and toss it in the dumpster or whatever, congratulations, your patience paid off. Get it out of storage. It's time to go.
Yeah. Hell
You got
yeah.
Virtual Boy Wario Land to play.
I like think a lot about Labo. I did like all the coverage of it when I was a Game Informer, so I built all those things, so I kind of have a soft spot for it. But I didn't actually. It was all like Game Informer's copies that I built and stuff. I never bought one myself, but the one that I do kind of kick myself a little bit of just not having just gone out of my way to have is the VR one, just because it's so strange.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird that Nintendo can sell out a cardboard, by the way. I completely caved and I kind of decided I did want the cardboard version of that Virtual Boy. And no, sold out. It's like, really? You don't have infinite
Really?
stock of cardboard, Nintendo? Help me out.
I
guys.
did buy the proper one, but I was kind of considering getting the cardboard one. It almost seems like it would be more comfortable,
What? Really?
Someday that cardboard one's
Maybe.
going to be worth hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like that one, could you strap it to your head? Did they the cardboard one, or you have to hold it?
I think they just expect you to hold it. Yeah. You could probably makeshift something and strap it to your head and of yourself. If you
Even
really want to.
I pulled out the Virtual Boy. I bought one like within the last couple of years, and I played through Wario. And like that was the big thing is like one of the ways I played it was I laid down in bed and laid it on my head. Because
Right.
like there's no way to strap it to your face that I'm aware of, and it was like extremely uncomfortable to sit at a table and play it. So it would be nice if they would have implemented some kind of way to just like attach it to your head, but that's too much forethought.
Not interested.
I do have to give a shout out to one of my favorites, which is actually a Taito game, but Nintendo published it here in the US, and that's Space Invaders for Game Boy, which is notable because it's the only Game Boy to include a Super NES game on it. If you play it on Super Game Boy, you can choose to launch the Super NES ROM for Space Invaders.
That's cool.
Like you can just boot in, like it resets the Super Game Boy and launches as a Super NES game. And the ROM for Super NES is right there in the Game Boy cartridge. And it's the full game that Nintendo had released like 3 years earlier as Space Invaders for Super NES that no one bought. Or am I getting the timeline mixed up? I don't know. Like they did release them separately, but this is not available also in Japan. Taito published Space Invaders for Game Boy in Japan in like 1990, and Super Game Boy didn't exist. It's just like a straight port of Space Invaders to Game Boy. But the Nintendo one has all these features. If you play it on Super Game Boy, it's got like fake color overlays. The cellophane strips uses Super Nintendo transparency to simulate that. But you can just like go all the way for it and just play the Super NES game on Super NES.
That's super cool.
It's like this was something that the Super Game Boy could do, and no one else ever did anything with that. Like this is this bizarre, untapped technology that was only exploited once. It's just like that is so Nintendo. Like we're gonna do a thing. It's crazy. It's cool. It's an edge case. It has so much potential. Here it is once for a game from 1978.
And you'll like
It's
it.
a
You'll
real
enjoy it, and
shaking
you'll
of
be
the
happy
ice
about it.
cubes in your Joy-Con level of commitment.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's perfect. The community wrote in with a bunch, and L. Stockler just saying the obvious, but yeah, I didn't think of it. Just say it might be genius, but can we agree that Smash Brothers is really weird? All the family-friendly Nintendo characters duking out until they're blown away into oblivion wasn't something people could foresee back then. And thinking about the franchise as a whole, who could bet that Cloud, Snake, Pac-Man, and Sonic would ever fight above Princess Peach's castle? It is weird. You're right. We should acknowledge that and reset our expectations here. Matthew W. says, Elite Beat Agents, that's freaking weird. Nathan Ryer going further back in time.
The quick weird thing about Elite Beat Agents to me is how much they changed it to come to America.
Yes.
Like the character models are completely different and
It's
stuff.
essentially a new game. New
Yeah,
music,
which
new
seems
challenges. Yeah.
fully unnecessary to me. Like I don't think my experience would have been changed at all if they were wearing the clothes that they wore in the Japanese version. It was like extra work that they did.
Oh, yeah. And forgive me.
And a lot of people imported those Owen Don games too. I mean, because yeah, because they love to beat agents, and they're like, this rules. You're telling me there's more of this in Japan?
Yep. I forgot about this, and so I feel like I need to go back and try and play this at some point. But Nathan Ryer wrote in about the Owen Dawn series, kind of the precursor to Elite Beat Agents, the original version. Luca Alberti says, hey, Find Me and Metopia, worth shouting out as the unhinged RPGs for sure. Tokyo Game Life is doing a lot here. They wrote in about Nintendoji, which was a DSiWare game exclusively distributed to Gold and Platinum Club Nintendo members in Japan. It was made by the Sakura Samurai devs. It's a dungeon crawler that includes items from other Nintendo games. I found it strange that so much effort went into making something that was given away for free to a select few people in one country. Hell yeah. Cool. Alex K, of course, writing in about our favorite game of all time, Excitebots on the Wii. Gio Benoji, Star Fox Adventures is weird. Yeah, you're right. That is a weird game. Jack Siege wrote in freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land, of course. And then that Tingle game that was like a parody of Balloon Fight as well. That was downloadable, I think.
Just imagine I had pulled that off my shelf that was next to me, Kelsey style. I do have that one.
All right, we can imagine.
I can't remember if I have that one. I'm not going to go dig.
Kyle Silva wrote in about a game that I had never seen called Tokyo Crash Mobs. Do you guys?
Oh, yeah. This one's super weird.
I remember that.
Yeah, so it is, as they put it, it's like PopCap's game Zuma, except it's with FMV people. So only half the levels are built around you matching people so you can get in the front of a long line, and the other half of the levels are all about preventing the people from pressing a button that opens a trap door that goes into outer space. But it's probably Nintendo's biggest experimentation with FMV, unless I'm forgetting something. It's a weird choice, but super cool one. And then Tom Bryant, of course, brings up Face Raiders for the launch of the 3DS. We shouldn't forget that is truly one of the weirdest experiences you could have playing a Nintendo game. I love it. Sweet. All right, leave a comment below. Let us know what we missed in our grand roundup of the weirdest Nintendo games of all time. I'm sure there's too many to go around, so lob some good stuff, please. Hey, Kelsey Lewin, do you know by chance how this whole thing operates here at MinnMax?
Is it like with a Famicom modem, you got to log on to your bank and place a bet at patreon.com?
It helps, yeah. We encourage people not to use Apple Podcasts, the app, to subscribe to Patreon because Apple takes 30% of the cut. But if you could log in through the modem or log in through your Wii browser or something like that, that's a great place to go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Find the tier that's right for you. If you're brand new, jump in before this Monday at the $2, $5 tier, $10 tier if you're feeling generous, and we'll DM you a Steam code for Sektori, a fantastic game from late last year. Otherwise, thank you to some of our biggest supporters, people like I Am 8-Bit. They want you to know that in their store, they have the Persona 5 Tactica vinyl soundtrack. As they say, funky beats are punctuated by audacious guitar riffs and tense violins. It's a Persona soundtrack. It frickin' rules. It looks fantastic. It's an I Am 8-Bit production. So help support MinnMax by supporting I Am 8-Bit by getting a fantastic vinyl soundtrack to Persona 5 Tactica in their wonderful online store. And for 10% off of everything in that wonderful online store, except for Atlas stuff, and except for pre-orders, and it has to be under $100, you can use the promo code I love I Am 8-Bit. I love I Am 8-Bit in honor of February for all month long, 10% off of things in their store. And you should help support I Am 8-Bit for everything they do, because each and every week they ship out a prize to whoever has the best questions submitted on Patreon. We're going to read through these questions, choose our number one favorite, they get a prize. And this week, Kyle, a prize comes from one Rebecca Sugar.
Hey.
That's right.
I know Rebecca Sugar, not personally. I emailed her a few times, but that's cool.
Made me think of it. Yeah, from Steven Universe fame. But she has a vinyl album called Lonely Magic that I Am 8-Bit will just ship to your house if you win Question of the Week. So thanks to everybody and thanks to I Am 8-Bit. Here we go. You ready for these, Jeremy?
Yes.
Okay, good. Jeremy, or Kelsey.
Yes.
Or Kyle, or anybody really. As a historian, do you have a white whale that remains tantalizingly out of reach? In your decade of chronicling the NES and Game Boy, what is your one mystery or story you're still desperate to solve or delve into before you close the book on those systems forever?
You know, I would love someday to find a copy of Pack Bird for the Bandai Microvision 8000. I tracked down I tracked down all the games, cartridge console releases that showed up in Japan before the Famicom to put together a book called The NES Era, which you can buy now at limitedrungames.com. And it was a journey to find all these really obscure systems. Some of those games cost a lot, but there was one game that I just could not find. Like no online shops, no online auctions. I hunted for years. I thought I had a lead on this very, very sketchy site. But you know, when you're dealing with things on the Japanese internet, like they still work in 1997 style HTML a lot of times. So kind of deciding, is this sketchy or is it just like a guy put this together in Notepad? I thought I had it, but it got away. So it's this one game. It appears to be just like a very simplistic black and white game where you play as a bird that kind of looks like a fish and just like flies around and eats stuff. And it's the one game out of the 7 released for the Microvision that I could not find. The one game released on cartridge in Japan prior to 1986 that I could not find for my book. And it makes me very sad. And someday I would like to find that game.
What's the name of it again?
Wow.
Pac Bird. PACPACBIRD.
I love it. I know it's a good pick because Kelsey Lewin lit up like this is brand new for her.
I'm not familiar with this game. I just was.
Well, that's because it
now.
apparently doesn't exist, but it's out there somewhere.
Weird.
Theoretically, I've seen scans of the box, like tiny little thumbnail scans. It exists somewhere.
Man. That's the worst.
Yeah.
I have so many answers for this one, so I'll try to keep it brief. But you know, we were talking about the 64DD earlier, and there were just dozens and dozens and dozens of games that were in development for the system, and a lot of them just got, you know, reworked kind of entirely to become regular Nintendo 64 games, usually at like a huge loss in capability of the game, or in the case of Animal Crossing, becoming an entirely different game.
Yeah.
But there's some that, you know, seem to have gotten pretty far in development. And of course, the obvious one is Mother 3. Everyone wants to see, you know, Mother 3 surface someday because that did get incredibly far in development. But there's also like, I mean, there's some other ones that they were talking about for a long time that then just kind of vanished, like Jungle Emperor Leo, which is you know, based on the Kimba the White Lion sort of. There's a whole lot of history that I'm not prepared to try to rehash with the whole, is Lion King a ripoff of that? And
right,
it's, you know,
right.
But you know, they showed screenshots that looked like, and it was playable at least one Space World. It's like this was a game that's just floating out there somewhere. They've talked about Cabbage is probably the big one that like intrigues me the most, because it's sort of, you know, Miyamoto's gone back and been like, oh, Nintendogs, like we took some of the stuff we were working on in Cabbage and repurposed it for Nintendogs, but it was, you know, supposed to be sort of a like Tamagotchi-esque breeding pet sim kind of game that would have been really neat and interesting. And they talked about how every copy of the game would have its own unique code that would generate your cabbage would be different than every other cabbage. And I don't think they literally mean the vegetable, but they were just calling them cabbages. Like yours would be unique, and you'd be able to look at what other people got, and every single cartridge would be different. And so there's so many things like that from that era in particular, from the Satellaview era. I mean, there's just so many things that were clearly fairly deep into development that, of course, you know, there's no one at Nintendo who seems to have been like taking this stuff home and is going to upload it on the internet later. It's just kind of gone.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you guys think about retirements at Nintendo these days? With what Tanabe is saying that Metroid Prime 4 is his last game. It was kind of ambiguously translated of like, he's not saying he's retiring, but presumably he's going to be checking out now. I mean, do you think there's a chance that with more people retiring, it might free up some of that history a little bit of people who are like, okay, now I guess it doesn't matter. I can go ahead and release this.
I mean, I think those retirements are well earned after 40 years. God bless you. You've brought many people many delights. So enjoy, sitting on the porch, sipping a lemonade or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know that actually is going to kind of knock things loose in Nintendo's history, because I feel like a lot of Nintendo's history is being sort of foregrounded because of these people who have been with the company for 30 or 40 years. And they look back and they remember, like, this was, kind of a big deal at the time. We sank a lot of, energy and investment into this. And so they have that connection, and they want to get that out there and in front of people. And I'm not saying that the younger generation at Nintendo doesn't care about that stuff. And I think a lot of them came to Nintendo because they love that stuff, but they don't have the level of inside information. They don't have that intimacy with things, especially things that were never released, never finished. Like, they wouldn't be able to talk to those development processes. I don't feel like it was necessarily, someone who's been at Nintendo for 10 years who said, we've really got to get those unreleased Virtual Boy games out there. I feel like that was probably, folks who were involved in Virtual Boy 30 years ago and said, let's get these out there finally.
Yeah.
But I don't know that for sure. Maybe I'm totally off.
No, I think that sounds about right. I mean, maybe there's some deep historians there who are like, wouldn't it be cool? Come on, old timer. Come on, let's release it, but who knows?
It just always seemed like such a forward-facing company, right? Just in general, it's like you get a chance to do interviews with them, and they almost seem shocked that you want to ask them questions about history.
Right,
right. And especially about stuff that, like, if a game is canceled, this is not always the case, of course, but like to a lot of people who maybe worked on a canceled game, they're like, that was a failure. It failed to launch. It was, not up to snuff or whatever. And so to be asking for things that were like the bad parts, the not good enough to launch parts of their history, they're like, why would you want that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Probably. Jeremy, do you have a favorite story of interviewing somebody from Nintendo? A time you got to geek out the most satisfying interaction? Anything with the devs? I mean, I assume you've been talking to these folks for decades now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the interviews I enjoyed most with folks at Nintendo, Kensuke Tanabe was a great interview subject. I talked to him when they announced Super Mario 3D World, I want to say. What was the Wii U one?
Yep.
But he was talking about how the verb of plucking had come back, because he was the designer on Super Mario Brothers 2, where you're like plucking things out of the ground and throwing them. And then that year at E3, Nintendo announced both Super Mario 3D Land or 3D World, I guess, whatever it is, the Wii U one,
yes, World,
with the cat suit, yes, and that had plucking, and also there was a Donkey Kong Country game that had plucking, and he was like, the time has finally come. But he was a lot of fun to talk to. I really enjoyed that. And I had multiple interviews with Aya Kyogoku, who's kind of like the head of Animal Crossing under, was it not Aonuma? I can't remember. I can't remember who.
And Hisashi
yes,
Mikami.
Eguchi, that's it. So she was kind of like Eguchi's lieutenant. And she was always kind of like put in front of the press to talk about the series. And I interviewed her a few times, and she was just really just fun to talk to. She was just very warm and accommodating, and always had really thoughtful answers, and was one of those developers who would like spot you a month later at an event and be like, "Oh, I remember you," which you don't always get with game developers who see kind of like this steady once every half hour march of people talking to them during a busy event while they're jet lagged. So I have good thoughts about her. It helps that I really enjoy her games. So there's a good kind of synergy there.
Yeah.
She's also my height. I talked to her once and I was like, oh my God, we're the same height.
Besties. Jeremy, we mentioned you on last week's episode of the podcast, maybe? Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you do a big list of like the best Mario games, your favorite Mario games? Trying to remember. Didn't you put like Super Luigi U as number one? Am I remembering this correctly?
No. Are you talking about the one that I did for, I want to say Polygon many, many years? It's been like a decade now.
It could be.
No, my number one game, and I still stand by this, although, maybe the rankings have changed since a few games have come out since then. was New Super Mario Brothers U.
Okay.
Because I really feel like that is the game that just synthesizes everything that's cool and good about Mario. Like, okay, you don't like the graphics. I don't care, because the level designs and the mechanics are so refined, and there's so much variety in the stages and the objectives. It's just like, it's packed with secrets. There's just so much to do in that game. It's got the multiplayer component, but it's still great as a solo game. I just feel like, to me, that is kind of, we polish up the Mario concept, just try to make it perfect, and this is what we give you. And I think people were just sick of the new Super Mario series at that time. And if it had come out like 2 years earlier or 2 years later, it would have been received a lot better. But we had just gotten New Super Mario Brothers 2 on 3DS, like just months before that. So, and no one liked the Wii U anyway. So you get a game that seemed a little repetitive on a system that people didn't really want, and it's kind of taking it on the chin. But I think if you look at it just objectively, not as like, this is the Mario that I played when I was 9 years old, and therefore it's the best game ever. If you kind of strip away that nostalgia from it, it's just a phenomenally designed game. It's so good. So I will still stand by that.
I love it, man.
Decade later, by God.
Tom Bryan writes in, and they say, here, to everything Jeremy just said. And they also say, which game do you think has been the biggest net positive for humanity? I mean, like doing benevolent good for mankind.
That's Stranding,
Is it Pokemon Go?
My first thought was Pokemon Go as well, for like the amount of real world interaction, getting people outdoors, exploring, interacting with each other. I think it's a real contender here. Now, my thought also went to, could you say Wii Fit? Then I was like, hey, here's my question. When I get to the pearly gates,
Wii Fit insulted me.
I know, it insulted everybody on Earth. You needed to be like a broom handle for it to be like, good, looking good, Chief. But
a broom handle with perfect balance.
That's right, which is very tough to do. But all right, when I get to the pearly gates, I'm going to ask one question, which is, did the existence of Wii Fit spare a single heart attack on planet Earth? Like, do you think it was actually like impactful in any way for people's health to a beneficial degree?
I think so. I think because even if you didn't necessarily like get obsessed with it and play it all the time, it might have gotten you into that mindset of like, it is actually good for me to try to do some exercise every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the answer is yes. Yeah.
I mean, it motivated me to lose some weight, because I went to a press demo in New York for it before it came out, which was cool. I got to, interview Miyamoto for the first time and all that, but I was like not in the greatest of shape with my amazing games journalist lifestyle. And, that made me say, I got to do something about this. So I got in shape after that. I did not use Wii Fit to do it, but at least, kind of like the fact that, hey, the idea of fitness has now been commoditized in video game form. So there's really no escape for me. I gotta get this sorted out. So it did help me in that way, through shame, I guess.
I like that.
Public shame.
Miyamoto's gonna watch me do push-ups.
Shame in front of Miyamoto.
Yeah, exactly. That's tough. That's tough.
I bet like stuff like Rock Band probably encouraged some people out there to pick up, like,
That's
actually
true.
learn guitar and drums and stuff like that, and maybe even start a real band, which is like good for your brain.
Yeah.
I would argue.
Yeah.
I think Wii Sports probably also, more so than Wii Fit, at least did a lot to, I mean, first of all, it is a fairly active game, but then also, to sort of bring the family together and maybe give, mom, dad, and grandma and everyone something to connect with your love of gaming on,
it's
kind
family bonding.
Of some family bonding.
Man, think of bonding. I mean, Jackbox games, things like the amount of laughs generated from every Jackbox experience over the last 2 decades.
Power all of Monsters. What's the Monster
University?
City? Monsters University.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Or then I was even thinking about like, just for size of games, like the amount of like friendships that have been like kindled through Fortnite. It's like it's tough to try and do that math. I'm like, what is actually the most beneficial thing? Probably Doshin the Giant.
My first thought was actually Tetris, if you want to go back to that.
Yeah.
Because just because one, like, they've talked about the therapeutic benefits of playing Tetris and really concentrating on it, especially in the wake of a trauma or something like that. But
I heard about
but
that.
if you kind of dial it back a little further to when that game was pretty new, it was one of the rare video games that just anyone could pick up, anyone could understand, and everyone got hooked on, regardless of their age or, nationality or gender or whatever. Like, it was just this kind of universal experience. And I think that was one of the really maybe the first time that a video game sort of transcended the idea of demographics and marketing and so forth. And it was just something that everyone could share. And I feel like that did a lot in a very sort of quiet, subtle way to just make video games more acceptable and help them become something that was just a part of the mainstream, because everyone knows Tetris and they aren't embarrassed about it. They're not like, oh yeah, I used to play that. Like, they just love Tetris because it's fun and it's, it's kind of this universal thing. And so I don't know if that's necessarily a net positive for society, but in terms of just kind of being an ambassador for the idea of video games, it's hard to think of something that was more on point than Tetris, from its sheer ubiquity and popularity.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Dominic Sachoki says, hey, everyone, I'm curious, how much responsibility do you think video game review outlets have to make sure their employees have a working knowledge of gaming history, even if they don't play many old games? Many people in the field are great. I'm not trying to call anyone out in particular, but I've seen a few people call Tomodachi Life on 3DS the first one in the series, when it definitely is not. There's a Japan-only DS game before that. Granted, we can't expect everyone to know everything, and there's only so much we can keep in your head at a time, but facts like these are easily Googleable. What's your take on that?
My take is that, it's good for people to be aware of the history of the medium that they're working in, but there's a lot of video game history at this point. And I don't think you should expect everyone who's reporting, especially like, a 21-year-old cub reporter, to have like a super deep grounding in the more esoteric facets of like Sega Genesis and Master System. I think that's kind of a lot to ask. I think there should be awareness, but I really think when you see things like that happen, stuff like that slips through, it's not the fault of the writer, it's the fault of the systems, because there should be editors, there should be, people on staff who do have that awareness, that are, not necessarily out there in the field writing previews, but are reading things as they come in and saying, oh, hey, actually, here's something you need, doing copy editing beyond just like you have a typo, but actually saying, hey, here's a point of error that you made. So consider, rewording this or something. But video game publications don't even really have copy editors anymore. Like, that's a vanished luxury as the money that goes into publications gets choked out and starved by just the broken system that we have for journalism now. So yeah, I don't put the blame for that at the feet of writers who just can't possibly be expected to know everything and at all times. But there should be a backstop to catch those things, and the fact that there's not really, it doesn't do anyone any good.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I mean, I do think that it's probably, if you're going to say something is first, you probably do have a responsibility to at least Google that. Firsts in any type of history are always difficult, but they're not usually difficult when it's just like first in a series or something like that. So, yeah, I completely agree. I think they're just, I don't expect any one writer to know even a quarter of all of video game history, because there's just so much of it at this point, and it sprawls so wide. And I mean, even someone like me who does enjoy studying this stuff and everything, I mean, I have enormous blind spots in, like European computers and that sort of thing. Like, there's tons, there's just so much to know. I don't think it would be possible to know all of it and to catch all of those things. But yeah, I think, you should probably Google basic factual things if you're going to put it in an article.
Yeah. Also, Dominic says, by the way, Congratulations. You had a fantastic charity stream. I'm so proud of y'all for what you did. Thank you. Jacob Mazanowski also says, no question this week. I just want to say thank you for showing me and everyone else how we can show strength and unity in what feels like a powerless situation. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, we if you remember last week, we mentioned we're going to be doing a charity stream with Giant Bomb, and that happened on all of our channels on Twitch and YouTube and all that fun stuff. It was a wild success. We had the goal set for $50,000 to help protect people from ICE here in Minneapolis through the nonprofit Veep. And we crushed $100,000 in under an hour. And the grand total right now, and there's a charity link in the description here if you want to add more to it, but right now it's $279,465. A shout out to, by the way, just people just keep donating. Who was this kind soul? There was another person that jumped in for $2,000 just the other day. Jeremy Grasick. Thank you, Jeremy, for jumping an extra $2,000 after we ended that stream. So clearly there was a pent-up need for, oh my God, I'm looking for some way to help, and to help pay people's rents and utility bills and to give people food in Minneapolis here that are scared to leave their homes, that can't work. Thank you so much for making that possible, everybody. That was probably the wildest, biggest charity stream I'll be involved with ever. Like, it was just surreal.
Yeah, in fact, I want to amend our answer about the net positive video game on humanity to Perfect Warrior, because we were playing that at the
Perfect
beginning.
Weapon.
Perfect weapon. You got to respect the weapon. Come on, man.
Oh, I should have checked. I should have Googled it.
Yeah, see, come on, man. Learn your history. Now, Kyle's job is for every answer he gives, he has to weave in a transition between every topic covered in previous questions. That's the challenge.
I'm the callback king.
That's right.
I was trying to remember the name of the anime that Jeremy mentioned.
You can't
earlier.
give up. George Bear Park wrote in. They say, what is the most Nintendo game that is not a Nintendo game? I like this question.
Ooh, that's a good question.
I got one. People said it a lot at the time, but now even in retrospect, thinking about it, Astrobot Rescue Mission, specifically that one, the one in PSVR that feels like it's leaning into the hardware. When I think of like what makes it feel like a Nintendo game, my mind goes to which software is like custom made for this one specific thing. So I think a little bit of like some Playdate experiences. So like, oh, it kind of feels Nintendo-y, kind of toy-like, but thinking about just the tight platforming, the clear Mario inspiration, but also just the specificity of the hardware, I think Astrobot Rescue Mission in VR would be my number one answer, strangely enough. But now we know from this history that Nintendo's obsessed with VR, so maybe it's not that strange.
In that same vein, Tearaway.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Vita.
That's a good one.
Because it's got some weird, like, you kind of touch the back of your Vita to do tearing motions and just a weird game.
Yeah.
Those are good answers. I hadn't thought about the hardware facet of it, but the one that kind of jumped to mind for me when I saw this question was Mega Man Legends, which was Mega Man's big adventure on PlayStation after a decade on NES and Super NES. But there's just something about the spirit of it. It did actually some things that Ocarina of Time would do a year later ahead of it, like lock-on targeting and things like that. But just the blue sky vibes of it, the sort of good spiritedness of it. It feels like a very wholesome game, not in like a bland or anodyne way, just like the characters are so good and nice, and you just, at the end of this 10-hour game, you fly off to another island and everyone comes out and waves goodbye to you, and you're like, oh, it's all the guys that I know, all my friends, the mayor and the baker and the lady who was pregnant and I had to get her to the hospital.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's this charming little adventure that's built around kind of, if we dare say it, a Metroidvania 3D structure. With these like ruins under the islands, and then these big boss encounters with very charismatic, likable villains who are bombastic and kind of incompetent, and you just can't help but kind of root for them, even though they're technically evil. So yeah, to me that's just like, it just has that Nintendo good feels vibe to it.
Yeah, and in fact, I
great
love that game
answer.
so much, and like, they want to keep the good vibes rolling so much that if you do evil things in that game, like, kick the vending machines too much, it'll actually tint your Mega Man suit darker and darker until you're just all black. You're being poisoned by the world for your evil deeds. That was like, God, talk about mind-blowing things when you're a kid. Like, wait, what do you mean? It's just the morality is just the tint of the armor for Mega Man. That's such a badass idea. K. Bree writes in, they say, hello, are there any perks you miss from your old jobs? I'm not talking money or health insurance, but any small or unique aspect to a job that you miss. In high school, I used to work at a Bob Evans restaurant, and I regularly could snag a biscuit on slow days. That's pretty sweet. Good biscuit time, yeah.
I mean, I do miss working in the games press because one, I worked at a big enough outlet or big enough outlets that interesting PR things would happen. And like when Nintendo launched the 3D or the DSi XL, which was like their biggest handheld ever, they just brought this gigantic sandwich into our office. It was not good, but it was just so weird. I was like, all right, so I guess this is what lunch is today, the sandwich that Nintendo just dropped on our conference table, and it takes up the entire table. But no, what I really miss from being in the press is just having access to game creators and getting to pick their brains for half an hour. And I feel like I really refined my approach to interviews over the course of 12 or 13 years or however long it was. And by the end of it, I was like, I really felt like I got to know the things that I really wanted to know. I'd kind of figured out like, how do I navigate the labyrinth of an interview with someone who's been talking to people all day long. Yeah. And I just really miss that. Everything I do now is kind of at a remove. I don't really have access to developers. And when I do, it's usually through my work at Limited Run. So instead of being on the outside, I'm on the inside. And especially when you're working with Japanese companies, there are different expectations and different boundaries set. And as an outsider in the press, you actually have much more freedom and access than you do when you are a partner who is expected to kind of work within the expectations and standards of the company that you're working with. You're not like, hey, spread the word for us and get it out there in the press. It's like, hey, get this project right. Come on, what are you doing?
Yeah. I miss, being in the office at Game Informer and stuff. Even though part of me feels like now with kids, like, how are people going to the office for that Game Informer job all the time? How is everyone in this country doing this? This seems very challenging. But it's like, the biggest thing was just like going on cover story trips and like, all right, fly around the world and spend 2 days with developers shooting videos. It's like, just throughout all of my 20s, just every month having international free travel where everything was covered and you get to talk to some of the smartest people in this field that you love. It's like, that is stupid. It was a stupid thing to give somebody.
And sometimes someone dressed as Deadpool comes to your office and hands out burritos in character in honor of the new Deadpool video game.
The lunch doesn't hurt. Or sometimes somebody would just drop off cases of the energy drink called Balls, and then no one else in the office would drink them. So I'd have to drink like 3 a day just so eventually we could get rid of. I had no choice, and I felt terrible, but
that was probably how you managed to make it to the office. You were just wired on energy drinks.
That's right, yeah. Wired on balls, yeah. Kelsey, you got any sweet gigs? Any good perks? There's got to be something.
All of my stuff is like, I used to get free Mexican food when I worked at the taco place.
Done. Oh my God, it feels like free chips and salsa, the best.
It was great. I don't know that it's free international travel in my 20s, but I did really enjoy getting the free Mexican breakfast every morning when I worked at Fuzzy's Taco Shop in Texas.
Shout out. Tan writes in. They say, hey, Jeremy and everybody else. Yeah, we're here too. Thank you, Dan. They say, I'm a big fan of Jeremy's one-up work. I was recently reading an old EGM, September 2007, and Jeremy's review bio said he's playing Picross DS and Halo 3. And I'm wondering, 19 years later, which of these is a better game, Jeremy?
I'm actually going to have to go with Halo 3. I think I like Picross best on Switch. So,
okay. Bold.
Yeah, I'll go with Halo 3. Good campaign.
There we go. Alex McMillan writes in. Oh, yes,
Kyle? We're talking about club games, Nintendo club games and stuff. They released a Twilight Princess Picross game for 3DS.
Weird.
That was like, it was hard to get. Like I had to do a bunch of stupid stuff on their website to get the points to get it. But I was happy to do it.
But look who's laughing now. Alex McMillan says, hello, MinnMax and Associates. I just wanted to submit my Better Quest achievement from this week. I've been working on my stand-up comedy for a few years, and on Monday, I performed my first hour-long show to a crowd of like 70 people. Isn't that wild?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
They say, as someone who submits annually to the Thanksgiving Joke-a-thon, it was really nice to actually write something that made people laugh for a change.
Oh, come on.
Shout out Alex McMillan in Northern Ireland. Congratulations to an hour-long set. That's wild.
That's impressive.
Also, they say, P.S. Ben, can we get your thoughts on Survivor 50? So it's the 50th season of Survivor coming up very soon here, and they're doing.
You can't just like add this at the end after we're all.
No, let me it's real quick, but it's kind of like an all-star thing, which they did for 40th as well, but it's like, it's very fun to be like, all right, 50 seasons, now we're gonna have people from the entire span, and not just winners, which is what they did at 40, but they're pulling in like people from season 2 going up against people from season 49, so it's really fun. So to answer your question, I want to see Joe and Jonathan, those two beefcakes, duke it out. That sounds fun. And then I'm very curious about Emily, who had a very tragic, somewhat racist beginning, and then she like evolved wildly throughout the course of the season. So having her pick up is going to be fascinating. Okay, Jay Vaso wrote in and said, "Hey, what would be your ideal video game themed hotel? Think that weird Star Wars hotel where you as the guest and the staff role played being victimized by a fascist empire? Personally, I think a Monster Hunter themed hotel would be really cool. Well, obviously, you couldn't hunt monsters during your stay. It'd be cool to be surrounded by people in various armor sets, carrying the weapons in game, and eating dishes themed after the ones in the game at the hotel restaurant." That's a good one.
You had me at the food.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I got a marketing email for like some hotel company in Japan that's like, we have immersive Pokemon rooms that you can stay in.
Yes, I got that
like,
too.
Did you click on the link and see how terrible they look?
No, they're bad.
It's just it's just like big fat heads of Pikachu on the wall. Like it's terrible.
There's so much potential with that.
Well, and it made me like start thinking about that though. Like what would a really cool Pokemon hotel room look like? And I think it would be kind of like biome based would be cool. Like you're in a forest and there's like, like a little Caterpie plush or whatever. And you just, I don't know. Like I feel like it would be cool to have it themed after the different places that you actually go to in a Pokemon game. So you might have like a Viridian Forest or, something like that, right?
That's nice. What is that in Gold and Silver with like the big tower? I'm trying to
remember.
Okay, like that'd be cool to like even just recreate
they're based
that.
on real towers.
Okay. Well, then just turn that real world tower into a hotel. And
just that like ancient temple that's full of history and stuff.
You want to make some money or not, Kelsey? Let's go. Come on, here we go.
with that failed Star Wars hotel in mind, where they did try to sort of gamify the whole stay, right?
Yeah.
I think like I would love like a Zelda hotel that was basically a series of like escape rooms, kind of. You know what I mean?
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Like to actually get to your room, you actually have to solve some puzzles and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be like crazy, ridiculous, or challenging. Like maybe you can elect how much challenge you want, but like I think it would be cool to actually have to like, if you want to get to the restaurant, you got to like hit some switches here to get past this door,
Yeah, you want us to clean your sheets? Solve this slide puzzle from Wind Waker.
Yeah,
go.
Yeah. I've also wondered, I'm not the biggest Animal Crossing fan, but like I've also wondered sometimes if like, what if they made an Animal Crossing experience where you got there and the first night you had to stay in a tent, but if the next day, you collected enough sticks, like one of those things I think about all the time is like, man, what if in real life you could sell sticks? Like what if you got enough sticks that you just collected? What if you did enough raking that they'd be like, all right, you get a real room with air conditioning, and then you just build yourself up over the course of the week or something.
Are you paying for this in this world?
I would. And then there's just a giant Tom Nook like guy in a big mascot costume, and he's like, I got more jobs for you. Go scrub floor 3 and like give you like real jobs in the hotel. That'd be kind of fun.
Well, I don't know about that. I do. I want to see. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. But just that money, like the fact can't you sell like piles of dirt in Animal Crossing? I mean, it's like barely worth it, right? It's like you shouldn't because you're not going to get enough bells for anything. But like, what if you could do that?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, have you ever tried to sell dirt? Go ahead and try, huh?
I gotta say, I haven't tried.
Okay, what about this for a themed hotel? The Metal Gear experience, and let's just say like all based on Shadow Moses. And think about like everyone's room is just like the prison cell from Metal Gear Solid 1. There's ketchup under everybody's bed if they want to use it. Like it's right there. It's a beautiful little cell for everybody.
And you have to sneak around. Like you want to go refill your ice bucket, you have to like sneak.
Yes,
right,
you have to like dodge the staff.
Get the cardboard box, but watch out that make sure the wolves don't pee on you.
Right. You can. Oh, how fun would it be? Yeah, to be like, okay, you want to access the gym. you got to heat up your key card and before you can go like actually get access to it.
You have to murder the IT guy's love of his life. You
Yes.
know, that'd be good.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Anyway, I have to say I've actually stayed at the best possible video game themed hotel, which was the Marufukuro in Kyoto. I was fortunate enough to stay there a few years ago, and that's the former Nintendo factory and warehouse that was converted into a hotel.
That's so
and
cool.
It's not obsessively in your face Nintendo. It's like it's a beautiful piece of architecture because I can't remember the name of the architect who designed it, but it's like legitimately nice. And it was the Yamauchi family home, at least the building that I stayed in. And there's like a really nice library that has a ton of video game history books in it. And there's, just like it's all very tastefully appointed. And when you look, you're like, oh, this is all kind of tied to Nintendo. But there's a really nice restaurant in the back that serves amazing food. And they've got like a little bar space where you can just go and hang out. And there's no bartender. You just like pour yourself whatever drinks you want. Because I think they're like, you're paying enough to stay here. You might as well just drink all you want. But it's just really nice. And you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, you know what? I think this might have been Hiroshi Yamauchi's bedroom as a child. Like, it's entirely possible that this is where he slept as a kid. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like to me, that's really cool. It's like steeped in history, but it's not pushing it in your face.
Yep.
But maybe that's just speaking to my temperament as opposed to what most video game fans want, which is like, I do want to kill the IT guys so that I can go to the gym.
Every person's fantasy. You get the idea, yeah. All right, what do y'all like for question of the week? There's the historical white whale, biggest net positive, interesting thinker, responsibility on reviewers knowing game history, Nintendo game that's not a Nintendo game, perks from the jobs. What's standing out to you, Jeremy?
I don't know. They were all great questions.
Yeah.
The perks of the job.
Perks of the job
was fun for me to think about, but I know it didn't give Kelsey a lot to chew on.
Oh, that's okay. I chewed on some delicious Mexican food.
There you go. Okay. Thank
point.
you, Fuzzies.
There you go. Congratulations, K. Bree. You just won the Rebecca Sugar vinyl thanks to I Am 8-Bit. Now it's time for a segment we call Get a Load of This. Hey everybody, get a load of this. I'm sorry for this being so far up my alley. It's become self-reflective. But there was, a couple weeks ago, that developer direct from Microsoft showing off the new Double Fine game, Kiln, right? And it was produced by the Microsoft video team and very slick presentation, naturally. Well done, but a little bit, they got their structure for those segments and stuff. And we talked about how odd that is because Two Player Productions, my favorite video team on planet Earth, they are employees of Double Fine and are in that office. And God bless them, they then released on Double Fine's channel Two Player Productions version of watching the production of Microsoft's making of for Kiln. And it is
brackets for Ben Hansen.
It is so good. Just to have like one team's sensibilities commenting and reflecting on another video production team's sensibilities. And you can see like these Double Fine figures who have been filmed for, over a decade in some cases, like in that studio, get to see what it looks like when they get nervous being on camera and when they get uptight. And like my favorite is they have shots of like the other video team trying to like loosen them up. Like, yeah, we're having fun. Okay, read the teleprompter. Okay, you can do it. Like, it's not like they did a terrible job. They're not like soulless corporate hacks over there for the other video team, but you just get to feel that conflict of styles and sensibilities. And it's, oh my God. It's one of those videos that was like 8 minutes long. Like this could have been its own, Psych Odyssey. Give me 30 hours of just
Go watch it in a theater.
Comparison between these video teams. Oh, I would have been there day one. Anyways, link below for all the stuff if you want to check it out.
Get a load of this. This is a pretty quick one. This is from Simon S. Anderson on Blue Sky, who is an illustrator and the creator of Owlboy and the upcoming Vikings on Trampolines. And they just shared this post that was people keep saying the code names in Metal Gear Solid sound like Mega Man X bosses, so I decided to give them actual designs. And he did like his take on like Liquid Snake, Revolver Ocelot, Decoy Octopus, but in a Mega Man X boss style.
Cool.
And similarly of like just perfectly up my alley in the same way you're talking about, Ben. It's like, yeah, no, this is all I want in my life. It's just like let's overlap Mega Man X and Metal Gear Solid into something fun. And it's really good. The art's really awesome, and unsurprisingly.
Get a load of this. This is maybe to up MinnMax's collective butts, but it recently came out. Lord donated $204,000 of her merch sales to the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Fund, which is fantastic, and also less than MinnMax raised.
Take that, Lord. We're your Lord now of charitable giving. Yeah, I saw that. That was
but no,
cool.
Seriously, that rules, and I'm
rules.
very glad that she did that. It's very nice.
Yeah, that's sweet. Jeremy, you got a little something?
No, I did not know I was supposed to prepare for this. So
How
I'm sorry,
dare
I have
you?
Nothing.
I
didn't know
got
what
an
the world
extra
is like out
for
there.
you that I think you'll like.
Go for it.
Based on our discussion about Mario Talent Studio, there is a YouTube video of someone recreating the entirety of steamed hams from The Simpsons in Mario Talent Studio, and it's fantastic. And they go through the process of like, here's how I created them in the game as well, like, you know, cutting the face out and putting it on the people's the bodies and everything. It's great.
Perfect. Let's see, from the Discord, where people get a load of this channel and they share fun factoids all day, every day. It's a wonderful source of news. Catherine shared this story from The Verge, which is about Supernatural, which is like a boxing workout game in VR that's become quite popular. And then with the recent Meta layoffs and them killing their VR studios, they're like, all right, no more updates for Supernatural, bye. And the entire community, which is like largely older women, are like, what? Are you kidding me, Facebook? And so everyone's just outraged about like this, you know, miraculously successful VR workout game now being abandoned. It just seems like this is exactly what Meta was pushing for the last decade. And then they get it and everyone's like, oh, okay, never mind. We got other things to chase.
It is one of those situations where you look at that and you're like, what? How that game would seem like it was doing great. Like I played it for a while. Like and it's effective and cool. And like they had committed players who are logging in every day. Like it is one of those situations. Like what else do you want from this? Like, you know,
got to pivot, got to keep moving. But that is it for this episode. We got a lot of fun stuff happening here at MinnMax. Again, remind you can check out our YouTube channel if you want to see the live reaction for us for the Nintendo Direct. That should be available there. Otherwise, the big news was the third season debut of Pew Pew Bang. It was dropping on YouTube and its standalone podcast feed. Congratulations, Kelsey. What's this episode about?
Woohoo, the first episode?
Yeah.
Oh, it's unhinged as all heck. We're talking video game crushes, online boyfriends. It's the very pinnacle of sort of the slumber party vibes that we're going for.
Definitely. And, you know, going into the episode, I was like, well, I've heard people like Haley talk about her video game crushes before. I think I can understand the range, and still I am amazed by the depths. It gets to the point of Haley talking about a YouTube video that's called Mewtwo Strikes Back, Just the Tubes. And she talked about that for quite a bit, which I had to check out. And it's like, all right, this is a thing for some people, and I respect it and honor it. Otherwise, bonus pod this week, our Patreon exclusive podcast hosted by Haley. Jacob Geller and I went on there to talk about Jacob's visit to Minneapolis, and then the charity stream overall. We get into analytics of the charity stream, and a bunch of other interesting stuff. If you're a dork, you want to hear more about, you know, life in Minneapolis right now and Jacob's visit and all that fun stuff, you can unlock that at the $5 tier on Patreon. Otherwise, New Show Plus this week, which is also in that bonus podcast feed because it's a good podcast this week, but then also up on YouTube. It was us doing a show called The Perfect Party is what people voted for. The Perfect Party Step 1. So it was a discussion about what makes a good party and what makes a bad party, and how we can design the perfect party. And then if this show keeps winning on Patreon, then eventually we will host that perfect party. And not invite all the Patreon supporters, I hope you understand, but invite some friends over and make it a reality.
It's okay, guys. I'm not even invited, so.
That's true. I mean, maybe.
We'll have our own party.
No, maybe we can invite Kelsey. Who knows? Let's see. I think that's it. Oh, also, I was on the Aftermath podcast, Aftermath Hours, talking more about life in Minneapolis and ice and everything there. So if you want to check that out, you're welcome there. Otherwise, a reminder, if you jump in before Monday at even that $2 tier, at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you're a new supporter, we'll DM you a Steam code for Sektori. But Jeremy Parish, thank you for being here, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah. What would you like to plug? People like your wisdom, your knowledge. Where should they go?
I mean, you can hear me podcasting at retronauts.com, which also has a Patreon, of course. And I've got my weekly video series on YouTube. Just look for Jeremy Parish because I didn't come up with a fun, punchy name for it. It's just me. And then also I do a lot of stuff with limited run games, including publishing books. Check out the upcoming release of Jaws Retro Edition. I did some design work in there, and by which I mean game design work. It'll be fun. Check it out. It'll be a surprise.
Interesting. Very
That's
curious.
exciting.
Yeah, there's links below for all the stuff if you want to check it out. All right, thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week with another new episode of the MinnMax Show. Until next time, be good, have fun, let's go.